Coming to a YouTube channel near you.
Why, hello everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Street Talk with Althea Jacob. I am Althea, and I am delighted that you have decided to join us tonight. I'm so happy you're here. It has been a crazy week on top of lots of crazy weeks. Hey, it's the first show in fall, so welcome to autumn, everybody. Summer was really hot and really humid. So honestly, I'm kind of glad to have these cooler nights. Although living in Wisconsin, it's only, what's the old saying, 2 shakes of a lamb's tail before you go from cooler nights to it's -20. Holy crap, it's cold. Anyway, so welcome. Okay, I see a lot of people jumped on already. Wonderful. Hi, Poncho. Hi, Nilda. Welcome, everybody. So for those of you who are new to the show, my intention of this show is to demystify things that are spiritual, to talk about whatever you all want to talk about that are here live on the chat, kind of share thoughts about what's happening in the world and around us. And our intention is to shine our light and share our love and try to figure out how we can become the best possible version of ourselves so that we can have peace and joy and love in our life and manifest the things that we want and need the most. Also, and maybe even more importantly, that we fulfill the reason for which we were born, that we find out what is the purpose that our soul wants us to express in this lifetime, and how can we be sure to have a positive impact on the lives of all the people that we touch. So that's kind of like the riding current of all the shows. And what I like to do is the format of the show is we start off with a little bit of just what's on my mind and heart, what's been happening, kind of fill everybody in. Then what I do is I ask Spirit for some messages to share with anybody who's tuned in. And the messages apply whether you're watching live tonight or whether you're tuned in tomorrow, next week, or next year. Whenever you're on, you're going to get to hear something that hopefully will ring true to you, resonate with your heart, and go like, oh, yeah, I needed to hear that today. Hey, Michelle, welcome. So I'll go through those messages, and then the rest of the time is dedicated to whatever's on your mind and heart. So if you are on live, you have the opportunity to put in the chat in all capital letters any questions that you might have, and any topics that you would like me to focus on or rant and rave about or share my insights about, and kind of go from there. So this week, what's been going on this week? So this week for me has been a little bizarre because I've been trying really hard. You know, you all know me. Anybody who's been on this show and tuned in for a few episodes, you know, I'm a pretty positive person, right? I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I try to hold that space for the best possible outcomes. And so when, you know, we've talked about it many times, don't get sucked into the trauma, you know, don't be contentious, be peacemakers. You know, those are all really important things. So one of the things that happened this week is some dear friends of mine on Facebook were ranting and raving about, you know, and celebrating the fact that a certain comedian here in the States got fired because he made a comment that was maybe inappropriate on his show. And, you know, everybody was in this outraged, and they insisted that this guy gets fired. And I was like, wait a minute. What about free speech? You know? And so I normally don't chime into these things because, again, I don't like to get sucked into people's trauma and whatnot. And, you know, and to me, one of the beautiful things about being an American in particular is, you know, we fought really hard, as many democratic countries have, for our civil liberties and our rights. And one of our rights is the right to freedom of speech. And I personally have had family members that have served in the military, bled, died, and suffered in order to protect and preserve and ensure those rights for us. And so I take free speech very, very seriously. And obviously, I'm a podcaster. I wouldn't want somebody shutting down my show because they don't like my opinion about something, right? That would be like kind of counterintuitive. The whole reason these shows are out there, and there's so many out there, is that you can find a show to watch of somebody whose energy you like, whose philosophies resonate with yours, and that you're learning something or enjoying the process of spending that time with that person. That's your right. And whether you're into something weird or bizarre, or, according to the mainstream, or very, meat and potatoes, it shouldn't matter. So I broke my own rule, and I started typing in the chat on Facebook, and I was like, hey guys, not for nothing, I'm just going to share in my humble opinion here. I said, nobody should ever get fired for sharing their personal opinion, especially if it's a show that's designed around that person telling their stories and sharing their opinion. And now I can understand possibly in a workplace, if you are representing management, or you are representing, you're the face of that company, and you say something inappropriate, there might be repercussions. So I can understand that from a business point of view, but from a civil liberties point of view, I do not understand how freedom of speech can all of a sudden be so censored. And the same people that were crying for, everybody has a right to be heard, and just because you don't like what I say doesn't mean I can't say it, and, standing up for free speech, now we're the first ones waving the pitchforks and brandishing the torches, like burn it down, shut them down. And to me, I typed on there, hey, John, welcome. I typed in the chat and I said, hey guys, let me ask you this. Has the definition of free speech changed? Is free speech now only the speech? It only works, like my free speech is okay only if the things I say are in alignment with the opinion of those in power. And so that to me is scary, because that's not what free speech was all about, and especially here in America, we were founded on religious freedoms. So it shouldn't matter whether you are Christian and whatever denomination of Christian, or Jewish, or Muslim, or agnostic, or Buddhist, or atheist. It doesn't matter. You're welcome in our country. You have the same rights as a citizen, no matter what you believe or who you pray to, right? That's one of our founding principles. And freedom of speech, even something years ago, I found it abhorrent, but there were people that were burning the American flag in public places as a demonstration. And I believe the Supreme Court actually said that was okay as an expression of their freedom of speech. So if they want to do that as an act to show their disagreement with the people in power, they have every right to do so. So if something like that was deemed okay, I can't understand how a comedian making a comment, especially it's a comedian, by the way, they're sarcastic all the time. They're tongue in cheek all the time. They're poking people all the time. That's what they're paid for. That's what they're good at, right? A lot of them. So it's like, okay, so is free speech only now? I'm only allowed to have freedom of speech if I'm saying the things that are in line with whoever is in power. Well, then that's not free speech. That's censored. That's being monitored. That's not free. So anyway, I got sucked into it. And I of course, I regretted it, because I'm like, oh my God, because we're not going to change anybody else's minds. And I'm really not trying to. And that's part of the point, isn't it? That we all have different opinions, and we should love and respect each other, regardless of whether we vote the same way or live in the same state or pray in the same place or don't pray at all. It should not matter. If we're citizens of a country, if we're neighbors with each other, if we're brothers and sisters under the creator of whatever made us all, and whether you call it God, the source, whatever, I don't care. Call it Yoda. I don't know. It doesn't matter, right? We're all going through this together. We're all living on this wonderful blue marble of a planet. Planet Earth has so many children, and we share it with the animals and all the rest of nature and all the other countries. We are all going through this together. And I thought we were so close to finally having that awareness of, hey, we're in this together. There's no reason to struggle and fight, and we're better together than we ever were apart. So I definitely learned the lesson of don't jump in, don't take the bait, okay? And there's a lot of bait being wiggled around. I feel like I'm the fish underneath and seeing all these juicy looking worms on the hooks going, oh, I want to go grab that one. And I'm like, no, don't do it. You'll regret it. Trust me. Just kind of do your best to hold on to the peace and respect people as much as you can. But what the other thing is, there's a part of me also that thinks it's very important to speak truth to power. And if somebody is being a bully, and if somebody is abusing power and abusing their rights or misinterpreting rights out of ignorance or arrogance, I think it's important that we at least say something like, hey, I noticed this isn't copacetic. There's something weird going on here. And so I think that kind of sharing is okay. And yeah, you're right, John. I'm going to put your comment up there. Our country hasn't been together in a really long time. And I would say, honestly, one of the last times I remember the country coming together was after 9/11. It took that tragedy, that disaster, where the best of people came out to help each other, where we and the rest of the country rallied together and the world rallied together. And that was 2001. So yeah, 24 years ago. And it's kind of a shame that it takes, we have many communities that come together, right? So I remember Houston coming together after some of the flooding after Harvey. And I remember, it's 1 year from Hurricane Helene, and, North Carolina, South Carolina, and parts of Virginia really got hammered, and those communities came together to help. And, other people, help around. And when there's earthquakes and the fires or floods, and, I almost have to wonder, I wonder if there is an intelligence behind all of these natural disasters, allowing them to happen or setting things up so they can happen. I wonder if part of the reason is because it does bring out the best in people. And it's like, all right, well, if you're not going to do it any other way, all right, here's an earthquake, here's a flood, here's a fire. Here, I'm like, I don't know. I hope that's not the case. I don't actually think that, I do believe, personally, I do believe in God. I do not think God micromanages us. And I think he gives us agency and free will and free choice. And like, if we make stupid choices, oh, well, deal with the consequences. And so the best thing that we can do, folks, I think, is be the shining example, be the constant person, be consistent in showing love, showing kindness, sharing your gifts, being not just tolerant of your neighbor, but accepting and loving and forgiving of your neighbors. Having that respect, even if you don't quite understand. If you say, well, I really don't understand why you think that way. Can you help me understand it? Can you share with me why you feel the way you feel? And having those kind of civil discourses and exchanges of ideas, and and still saying it's okay to, we can agree to disagree and still be friends, and we can still be neighbors, and we don't have to try to wipe out anybody who doesn't believe what we believe. And so part of what we can do is through our prayers and through our positive energy and through our manifestations, right? We're really good at manifesting things in our lives by visualizing and putting the energy out there. Where our thoughts go, energy flows, right? So what do we need to see? We need to see a society where everybody is much more in harmony, that we've come together, that we're rebuilding things to help. I think one of the most interesting speakers I've seen in a while, there was a woman who was on a talk show I saw. Actually, it was on a comedy show. She was a guest speaker, but she was somebody from the Philippines. She was a journalist from the Philippines. And she came here and she said, I'm trying to warn people that what happened in the Philippines with the dictators following the dictator playbook, and people that they started out as a democracy, and little by little, next thing you know, it's like martial law in the streets, and, people in power that were doing all kinds of things that were against their constitution. And you think, And she said, what happened was people just stopped doing their jobs. They got complacent. They got greedy. They were like, oh, it's too much trouble. Oh, it's not going to be that bad. They turn the other way, and just kind of, the old, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And next thing you know, they had Duarte as a dictator for all these years, since I think 2016 or so. Now, fortunately, the world stepped in and they accused him of war crimes. And apparently he was arrested and he's in The Hague waiting for prosecution there. But one of the things she said was what she was noticing as an outsider looking in, that so many people who profess to be Christians are very unchristlike. Like, if Jesus was here, Jesus would be going, what are you doing in my name, folks? Because Jesus uplifted those that were downtrodden. Jesus hung out with the outcasts. He fed the hungry. He helped heal the sick, right? He made it his mission to help the least of the brothers and sisters, to help them. He didn't just say, oh, you're homeless, so let's just round you up and, get rid of you. No, it was like, no, let's be loving. Let's take care of them. And so it was sort of like, wow, yeah, Jesus would always, encourage people to talk. So even if you don't believe he's a Messiah, you can just say, even as a prophet that we know an awful lot about from what was written of the history and his words that were written, it's like, okay, how can you call yourself a Christian and do and say the things you're doing when they are so antithetical to what Jesus actually stood for and what he asked us to do? And so that hypocrisy is bizarre. So I've been seeing a lot of that this week too. So one of the things, when I notice these things, it makes me step back and reflect, like, okay, am I being consistent in my life? Am I being hypocritical in any way? Am I saying one thing and not standing up for those rights or those, helping people? So anyway, that's kind of what's been on my mind and heart. And I know the rest of the world is looking in, and I don't know, what y'all think, if those of you from the UK are on tonight or not, but, looking from another country, I would imagine you guys are probably scratching your head going, what in the world is going on with the US? Because those of us here, a lot of us in the US, we're doing it ourselves. We're like, what the hey is going on? It's almost not recognizable to me. And, a lot of people are almost afraid to say that because, if the wrong person sees this or hears this, like, well, will my podcast be stopped? Will I be silenced just because I had the audacity to share an opinion that, didn't conform to the company line? Wouldn't that be horrible? If people did that on all the podcasts, like, oh, I don't like you talking about aliens and UFOs because I don't believe in those, so we're going to shut all those down. What? Right? Wouldn't that be terrible? But, and everyone's like, oh no, that could never happen. It's happened in other countries. I hope to God it doesn't happen here. But anyway, so that's kind of been what's going on in my mind. Now, interestingly, when I picked the cards for tonight, so we're going to go into the readings from Spirit. The first card that I got for the messages, and by the way, these messages, folks, should resonate with you. They should ring true. They should make sense to your head, your intellect. They should feel good in your heart. There should be a knowingness, a ringing true in your gut, especially if it's a message that was partly inspired through spirit for you personally. Okay, so the first card we got here is growth. And growth says development, expansion, and healing. Seek new areas for learning, relax, and try to take things less personally. Okay, so I just got slapped by spirit, right? Here I am talking about all my personal like pet peeves, and it's like, don't take things so personally. And grow naturally into a greater sense of self. Have confidence and trust. All right, so that was growth. Now, the next card is interesting, also kind of following up on our conversation. It's flexibility. And flexibility says, life is full of changes and surprises. Well, amen to that, eh? Your guidance is to move with the current, for it is with resisting the flow that often creates the problems. So that's interesting. So what's the flow? Is the flow going in the way we want? You know, do we need to stand up to the flow? Or in this case, it's saying be flexible. So go with the flow, kind of ride it out and see what's happening. But pay attention, right? Eyes open. When you accept the possibility that there are other ways that were previously unseen, new doorways will be open to you. And you can move casually through the changes and easily through the changes. There is a solution to every problem. So look at things with the eyes of love and through positive expectation. Then the life force will flow freely through you. All right. And so that was kind of like, okay, growth. It's a time of growth. Got it. We need to be flexible. Got it. And then release and surrender is the last one. And that was sort of like, okay, the cherry on top. Like, hey, we're telling you, just kind of trust on some level that things are unfolding in a way. And maybe we need to have the upheavals and the disruptions in order to shake things up enough that we all go, wait. No. This is not what we wanted. Let's circle it back around. Anyway, release and surrender. We, your angels, shower you with blessings of our radiant love. Open your arms and release the challenges that you've held tightly gripped with your hands. Open your hands, your arms, and your heart to our love and assistance. Release and surrender. Okay. So then I picked 3 tarot cards. Well, guys, you're going to laugh when you see the first one. The Tower. Do we not feel like, oh my God, it's all burning and going to hell in a handbasket in some ways, right? It's like radical change is happening. And we feel when the Tower card comes up, it's change that's happening regardless of what we want. It's like happening to us and around us. And it just feels really uncomfortable. The next card of what's happening now, this is the Queen of Swords upside down. The Queen of Swords is one of the more powerful worldly women in the deck. She's trying to wield her power, but she's upside down. And this doesn't just apply to women feeling a little helpless, but it's this feeling a lot of us are going through, a feeling like, I don't know what's going on out there. I don't know how to plan ahead. I don't know how to navigate these rocky waters because it seems like so many things are changing so radically and so quickly. I don't know how to keep up so I can be ahead of the curve. And what's really cool about the next card, it's the future card, and it's the world card. And it says, look, guys, if we are really clear about what we want and we hold that thought so we can manifest it, we can create the world that we want. We can overcome the challenges that are out there and deal with the things that are upsetting us or that seem a little, out of sorts. Let's just put it that way. So that's definitely a way that we can go. And John, I like this comment. So John is reminding us, and I totally agree. Peace has to come from the people because it's not going to come from the governments. Too many of the people that are involved in governments anymore, they're not how it used to be where people went into government to serve. And a lot of times it was an unpaid position, right? Now you become a politician for big bucks for and for a lifetime of benefits. I don't know if y'all know this, but if you serve just even, one day as a congressman, you get a lifetime of benefits because you served in Congress. It's crazy, right? People that have any of our elected officials in the U.S., they get incredible benefit packages for having been in that role, as well as all kinds of opportunities to make money on the outside because of what they've done. So it's become a very self-seeking way to grasp power and wealth versus a position of service to help society become better, to help lift everyone up, to help be the peacemakers. So the role of government has really changed a lot over the years because some of the lower natures of the highest people in power have taken over. So it is up to us, as John said, it is up to us to cultivate the peace. We have to be the peacemakers. We have to be the ones that hold that truth and shine light and shine love and share forgiveness and be leaders, show the way, demonstrate the way, right? Be unconditionally forgiving, be loving, help those in need, be kind. Oh my God, kindness. Like kindness is so undervalued, but boy, oh boy, do we ever need people to be kind to one another anymore, to truly care about each other. Too many people are just, it's all about them or maybe their immediate family, and they really don't care about anybody else. And you're like, really? No, that's not how society came together. That's not why we were formed. That's not why we all came down together. We came down together to do it together, not as individuals, right? So I did crack open to the book, and the inspired reading that I opened up is something called The Vow. And it says, I will shine my light and hold the space for all to return to the one. I will sing my song of creation with joy, with gratitude, and with love. Each soul I encounter is a part of me, returning to the whole, a joyful homecoming of our essence, remembering who we truly are. I know in the Buddhist faith, there is something called the vow of the Bodhisattva. And what this vow is they say, I will not, and I'm going to put this into more layman's terms. So any Buddhists out there, please forgive me if I'm not quite getting it right. But essentially what they're saying is, I'm not going to go to heaven. I'm not going to go to that final place of rest until I've helped all of my brothers and sisters get there as well. So I will keep coming back and reincarnating time and time and time again until we all get it right. So they kind of forsake or put on hold their own personal soul's rest, gratification, glory, reward, however you want to think of it. And they voluntarily make a vow to be of service to all of mankind. So until we can all get on the boat, I'm not going. It's kind of being like the last person to get on the lifeboat. When the boat's sinking, it's like, okay, wait. Let me make sure everybody's on. Okay, now I can get on. And so I think of that sometimes of, wow, that selflessness, how many of us would be willing to do that these days, right? We live in such a me first time for so many people around us, and there's so many people suffering. I just saw on the news earlier today, it's been 1 year since Hurricane Helene hit, and they were interviewing a retired veteran. He served in the Navy, and he lost his home through the flooding and all his possessions. And he was living in a little camper. He and his dog were living in this little camper on the property next to the remains of his house. And it's been a year. And he said, well, insurance won't pay to rebuild it or to replace any of his things. And I'm like, that doesn't sound right. They paid the bank, so the bankers got their money on his mortgage, so at least he didn't wind up owing that money. But here he is, a retired military veteran who has nobody helping him. And I'm like, how is this possible? Where's the VA, the Veterans Administration of our country? Where are all the volunteers that, stream into places when the cameras are there, to help this guy? Where are the resources? The Home Depots and these big corporations that, tend to send the stuff to help. Where are those teams of people to help? And he's like, I'm just one guy, and I fell through the cracks, and no one seems to care. And it's like, oh my God, my heart just broke for this man. I'm like, I care. I don't know what I can do from here. I'm not in North Carolina, but it was just, these are the kind of things that we have to really think about, folks. What can we do to help? How can we help each other? How can we even just pay attention to the stories? So many stories get lost or shuffled. It's like it's the news story of the day, and then it's like on to the next one. It's like, wait, we haven't fixed this yet. Let's make sure we don't lose focus on it until we fix it. And I guess people really aren't interested in fixing things if it's not a quick fix. But very few things that are worth having are quick fixes, are they? All right, so that's the messages that Spirit had for us all. Again, it's a time of growth. We need to be flexible. We have to release and surrender any preconceived notions. We have to be in a place of love, of respect. The tower, it's going to feel like, oh my God, not necessarily the world is coming to an end, but there's an awful lot of stuff being upended and shaken about, lots of change, so we have to think about what we need to do there. And then, we may feel powerless, but we're not. We have our prayers, we have our mind, we have our words. We can visualize and put energy into the positive outcomes that we want to project. And if we all do that, we can create a world where there is that beauty, where there is that fellowship, that brotherhood and sisterhood, that sense of community, of coming together to help each other, to heal each other, to help our planet, to have that sense of joy and peace and love in our life, on a regular basis, to feel safe, to have that comfort of, we have a roof over our head and food in our bellies, and we're educating our children, and we're coming together to support each other in whatever ways we can. Okay, so I see some text there that we have a request for some information. Okay, so Nilda is saying, I need a message from Spirit to advise me if I should move within the next 2 years. Do I stay in New York or move out of state? Okay, so one thing I will say right off the bat, Nilda, and this is because this Tower card came up, this is a time of radical change. And one of the metaphors Spirit gave me a long time ago about change was that, imagine you are a, what do you call this? Parachute person. You're going to jump out of an airplane with a parachute. You want to go skydiving. You're a skydiver. And the way that the skydiving club works, after you have your lessons, when you go on the plane, your jump coach and you have an agreement that once you step on that plane, you've been trained. And once you step on the plane, the only way down is by jumping. You can't ride the plane back down to land. You have to jump. And if you don't jump, your coach, and you agree to this, will push you. Well, in a lot of ways, our guides and angels that work with us are kind of like that jump coach. And if we ride that plane up and we get to the door and we see this change, right? We got to go from this plane down to the earth. And it's a scary transition. We're like, I don't know about this. I'm a little nervous. What if the chute doesn't open? What if? And they're like, okay, but now's not the time to be thinking about all that. I have to take action. I have to have courage. I have to be brave. So it would be far better to say, okay, I'm scared to do this, but I know I need to make this change. So, okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, jump. Have my hand on the ripcord, and then 1, 2, 3, pull, and my chute goes up. And okay, for those first couple seconds, I could be afraid, like, okay, will everything work? But once that chute opens and now I'm drifting peacefully down, I can feel like, oh, I can actually enjoy the ride. The transition does not have to be traumatic. However, if we resist the change and force our coach, our jump coach, or our guides and angels to push us, what happens when we're pushed out of the plane? Well, our arms are flailing. We don't have that sense of control. We haven't caught our breath. We haven't psyched ourselves into it. We're like, oh my God, where's the ripcord? Where's my, okay, I finally get it. You're in this panic and a free fall for the first many more seconds than when you do it under control. And you finally get your chute open and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it was like this dramatic, traumatic, horrible experience getting from the plane to the ground. And you finally land and it's okay, you're there. But it was not fun. Well, part of that was your own doing because you made it so difficult for yourself by forcing spirit, your coach, to push you. So instead of voluntarily saying, yeah, I know I need to make this change. I'm going to save up. I'm going to do it the way that makes sense. I'm going to do it. Leave this job, leave this partner, leave this, make this dietary change or exercise change or medical change or where I live change. Like instead of doing it willfully and putting a plan in place and doing it kind of at your own speed and at your own pace, but getting it done, if you don't do it when the time is right, spirit will push you. And a lot of times the way they push you is they create a crisis to force the change to happen. So a lot of times, like with jobs, people will get fired unexpectedly, or the whole company goes under, or all of a sudden there's a new invention and there's no longer a niche for that particular product or service. Or with relationships, all of a sudden you find out like, okay, you knew you really it wasn't working, but you didn't want to have that contention and confrontation. And so you just kind of been biding your time. And then the next thing you know, you find out that they've been cheating and it's like, oh, or they break up with you and you're like, what? And like you're caught off guard, or they kick you out of the house or whatever. Those kind of things can happen when spirit says, well, you didn't do it willingly. We kind of gave you the nudge. We encouraged you to make the change yourself. You didn't do it. So now we have to create this crisis around you to force the change to happen sooner than later. So that was a long around answer for your question here. So if you're starting to feel, Nilda, that you're supposed to be moving within the next couple of years, if that's what you're already starting to think that way and feel that way, then you should plan for it, because it wouldn't even be occurring to you that that's something you should be thinking about unless your guides and spirit were going, you need to make a change, and here's some options, and we're planting some seeds, right? So folks, this isn't just for Nilda. This is for anybody that's wondering about making a major change in their life. If you're even the thought of you considering it, and why do you think it even popped in your mind now? So that you can start getting ready to make that happen, whether it's the new job, a new place to live, a new relationship, a new exercise pattern, a new diet, whatever, right? New health routine. So these things, spirit kind of whisper to us and pop into our brains so that if we're paying attention, we can very gracefully plan and execute and make the change from a place of courage and bravery and kind of on our own terms. Like, okay, I'm on the door of that plane, getting ready to jump out. My hand is already ready on that ripcord. Okay, I'm ready. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to close my eyes because I'm still a little scared and I'm going to jump. okay, 1, 2, 3, pull. And oh, thank God the chute opened, right? And then you can enjoy the ride down. So we can enjoy the transitions. Change does not have to be radical, gnarly, nasty, scary, right? It can be graceful and beautiful and fun and an adventure. But it really often will come down to what started the change, what facilitated that transition. And were we a willing, eager participant and even planner of the change? Or did we go kicking and screaming the whole time so it became drama, trauma, and horrible for us? All right. And apparently that resonated with Nilda because she said, wow, you just opened my eyes. Made sense. Got it. Thanks. Awesome. Yeah. And, that is one of those hard lessons to learn, folks. Trust me, I've gone screaming and kicking more than enough times when I don't want to make this change, and I know better. Right. And I'm like, yeah, but when I do get the heads up, when I do get the sense of, oh, I need to make this change, and I do it more willfully and willingly, and I kind of plan it out and I strategize on it, it can be filled with grace. It can even be a little joyful and fun. And it can be like this great adventure of, if we ask questions like, I wonder how amazing it'll be once I make this new change. Or I wonder what great new friends I'm going to meet when I move to this new place. Or I wonder how much more fulfilled I'll be when I take this new job or position. Or I wonder how much more love I will feel in my life when I'm with a partner who truly cherishes and respects me and loves me as much as I love them. Because, a lot of us settle for less than best in our jobs. Oh, it's good enough. It's a living. Less than best in the homes we live in. Well, it's okay. It's a roof over our head. Less than best in the relationships that we have. Oh, it's better than being alone. Less than best in so many things. And that's not what Spirit wants for us. Spirit wants us to be the best possible version of ourselves, having the most joyful, positive experiences filled with kindness and love and sharing, expressing creativity, fulfilling our soul purpose, and really fulfilling the full measure of creation of what is possible for us to do on this side of the veil. We all came into body for a reason. We left the spirit world and said, yeah, let's come play. Let's come see what spirit is going to do for us. And so when it comes to making some of these changes, so for example, here, Nilda asked a follow-on question here. She said, well, I don't know if I should stay in New York or go out of state. Well, a lot of times you can kind of ask your own guidance, make your pros and cons lists and see if one is much more filled than the other. You can take your pendulum and you can say, okay, should I stay in New York? Yes or no? Or you say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is my best happiness and most fulfilled life, what number on a scale of 1 to 10 will I get if I stay in New York? What number on a scale of 1 to 10 will I get if I go to a different state? And you can take out the map of the whole 50 states and say, okay, if I move to Arkansas, what will it be? If I move to Wisconsin, what will it be? If I move to California, what will it be? If I move to Connecticut, what will it be? And you can look and see, where are the high numbers for you? And where do you naturally feel drawn? See, there's no, I'm gonna say something here, and I'm gonna pick on a word you used there, Nilda, where you said, I don't know if I should stay in New York or go out of state. There is no shoulds. Who is making these rules for you? Spirit will never tell you what you should or shouldn't do. Never. And I'm telling y'all right now, if there's some reader, psychic, coach, or whatever that's telling you they're hearing from Spirit that you have to do X, Y, or Z, run as fast as you can, because Spirit will never, hear me on this, never tell you you have to or you should do this, or this. They make suggestions. They will tell you what might be in your highest interest. But we have free will, free choice. We have the agency, and they respect that. So they may tell us what might work out the best according to our soul's plan, but they will never say, you need to do this, you should do this, you have to do this. We have total autonomy and choice for our own life and what we do. So should I stay or should I go, as the song says? What do you want to do? Do you want to stay? Do you want to go? What gives you the most options? What gives you the most joy? What brings you the most peace? What brings you opportunities? Where do you have the most friends or family? You know, what's important to you, Nilda? What makes you happy and brings you peace? Those are some of the factors that should go into your decision, right? Again, spirit will never tell us directly, you must do this. They'll prompt us with suggestions, and if it feels right to us, we'll follow them, right? So, and you got it. I know you got it. You're a smart cookie. She said, yep, I understand. So, and I also like, I didn't pop this one up there, but she says she prays every day for her brothers and sisters. And that's so important, you know, for all of us to do, to keep that positivity in mind, you know, to pray for others, to send out good energy into the world, to share our gifts, to share our love, to be kind, to have positive impact. All these things are so important. All righty. So we still have another, what is it? 8 minutes left. So do we have any questions or topics from anybody else that you would like me to tune into and see what's happening there? I will tell you something else that was on my mind and heart this week. Yesterday, on the 24th of September, that was the 10-year anniversary of when my mom died, when we were together on vacation. And that was a pretty traumatic thing to live through for me, and to lose my mom, who was my best friend. And so I was doing a lot of reflecting, and it was also my brother's birthday yesterday. And he's been gone since 2006. He would have been 61 yesterday. And so it was kind of an odd thing, you know, thinking about the family that's on the other side of the veil. And my mom's spirit kind of popped in for a minute, you know, to kind of comfort me, let me know, you know, she's okay, of course, and she's with everybody there. But I know we've talked a little bit about our pets, and, you know, my dog is older and has been struggling a little bit with his back legs. And, you know, every day I kind of look like, okay, you know, is it time yet? Is it time yet? And we also have another family dog. My aunt has a dog over in New York, and that dog is also very old and has been a little sickly of late. And my mom basically said that sooner than later, before the end of this year, both of those dog spirits would be over with her on that side of the veil versus here with us. Well, of course, I heard that and I started crying. I'm like, no, I don't want, you know, I'm not ready to have my puppy go, and I don't want that, I don't want that to happen. But I called my aunt to tell her, the message came through from my mom about that. And she said, I just yesterday was thinking, and looking at her dog and thinking, yeah, she's really, she's not doing well. And, it's probably getting close to time. And just the thought of her, being gone was heartbreaking. And it actually gave her a little peace to know that my mom, her sister's spirit, was like, I got it covered. I will take care of them. I will take their little spirits and watch over them until we're all reunited someday. And, it doesn't make it much easier. I'm going to start crying just even thinking about having to say goodbye to my little guy. I had him since he's been a puppy, when he was only 8 weeks old, and especially since the divorce, he's my only company. He's my buddy. We go everywhere together. Heck, he even sleeps on the foot of my bed, and snuggles with me, so it's like, oh man, I don't want to think of him, not being with me, and not being around. And it's funny because I'm probably luckier than most because I can communicate with spirit. So I know he's going to come visit me and whatnot. But, guys, we have an opportunity when we are in physical, the physical body, to share love and hugs and say things and do things together with the people we care about. Never take that for granted, right? Love every minute. Get the most out of the minutes. And that's why I think I get so upset with the contention and the wasted opportunities where people are sharing their words of hate and divisiveness instead of words of love and encouragement. We need to hold on to that positivity as much as possible and to share and express our love and our gratitude, with each other. And I'm so grateful. I've shared this many times before, and I was negligent tonight, but I'm so grateful for Chris Grizzly and for Mary, who are the backbone and the heart and soul of this whole Bigfoot network, and all the work that they do to help all of us hosts get out there and promote the shows and make sure everything is loaded up right, and all the technical stuff that happens. I'm so grateful for them, for what they've taught me and giving me this platform where I can share thoughts. And I truly hope that, I really, truly hope that we can all express gratitude and love to each other for coming together as a sort of virtual family on our Thursday nights, or a Bigfoot family. We come together on whatever show and you come onto and the host that you come to visit. And please make the time to express your gratitude to your friends, to your family, to your loved ones, while you still have them. If there's people in your life that you love and care about and the relationship is off, pray for guidance. Try to heal that, while you can. Once they're in spirit, it's, some things are easier, but some things are a lot harder. And there's nothing that can replace that hug, that tender smile, that laughter as you're sharing a joke, and sharing a good meal, or enjoying even sitting together quietly, but just sharing that same physical space together. There's nothing like that. So, yeah. And I really appreciate you all, tuning in each week. I appreciate you doing all the good social media things of liking, sharing, subscribing, telling your friends. I do hope that, my messages and the things that we talk about and share of trying to be the best possible version we can be, of sharing our light and our love, of being kind, of truly making an effort to have a positive impact on all the lives we touch, on all the people we interact with. That will create a better life for us, a better world around us, a sense of peace. And I think if enough people do it, it'll just spread. And that can become the norm. That can become the heaven on earth that we all hope and pray will happen. I know some people are saying, oh yeah, it's end times and we're going to be raptured up. And I'm like, okay, well, you all might be raptured up, but what about the rest of us here? There's a lot of people that are good people that we want our world to be a heaven on earth. So we have to do our parts. And thank you for your compassion. Thank you for your empathy. Thank you for being the bright lights that you are. I hope you all have a wonderful week. It's the hours already. The hour goes flying by on these Thursdays. I don't know. I guess when you talk a lot from New York. But so here's a little rose quartz heart a friend of mine gave me. And I just felt like I needed it today. And yeah, all of a sudden I got so emotional. But it's just, it's so important that we do the right things when we can, right? And we share our love and our gratitude with each other when we can. I remember talking to my grandmother when she was 89 years old, and she died a little before her 90th birthday. And I asked her if she had any regrets in her life. And she said, the only thing I regret is maybe, not taking more chances and not telling people often enough how much I love them, I care about them, I appreciate them and that sort of struck a chord in me. And I thought, what wisdom, from my grandmother that I want to keep and try to live that life and share that message. So y'all, first of all, love yourselves, forgive yourselves, be unconditionally loving and forgiving with you first. You are lovable. You are loving. You are loved, right? So start from there and just do the best you can. We're all going to have oopses. It's not going to be perfect, but it can be better. And it can be even better when more and more of us vow to live a life of positivity, of being a force for positive change, of being kind, of saying things that help to heal and bring peace instead of dividing, shining our light, sharing our love. You know it, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, watching, and sharing. I look forward to seeing y'all next week. Have a blessed week, and keep the faith, y'all. Love you. Thank you so much. Good night.
Coming to a YouTube channel near you.